and I'm in view. Micha told me that I have like 1 meter to be standing, so I can dance around this little area, and that's it. Nothing else. All right. Thank you all again for being here. We're going to be talking about out with the golds and in with the golds. We're going to be talking about mostly Ephesians 4, verse 17 to Ephesians 5. And I don't know if Femke did it on purpose, that she had to welcome with the exact verses that I, like right before the verses I wanted to use, but it worked out really well. And we're going to be talking about a new path today and what we can do with that. And I have some questions, and it's going to be somewhat interactive, as per usual. I'm still a teacher. And the first question is, who knows who this guy is? Oh, all the way in the back. I heard one answer already. Christopher Columbus, exactly. Christopher Columbus was known for what exactly?
Having a bad sense of direction.
Bad sense of direction, yes, very much so. Bad sense of direction. So, and I'll explain that as well. But what is he really known for? Discovering America, right? Columbus, it's going to be a little history lesson here, right, guys? And I know, I'm a history teacher, so bear with me. This is the map that he based himself on. Columbus wanted to go to India, and by going to India, he was like, you know what? If we just go west across the Atlantic Ocean, at some point, we'll be reaching Japan, we'll be reaching Asia. We're going to be just fine. The map is made by Toscanelli, Italian guy, and and he was just thinking, it's a modern interpretation of the map. And he was thinking, if we just go straight across, we'll end up there. We'll end up where I want to be, which is going to be, in this case, Japan. And then from Japan, we can reach the rest of Asia. And they calculated, and they were like, OK, Earth is probably going to be like this big, etc. And the calculations were completely off, as Johan said. His sense of direction and his calculations were completely off. They predicted Earth to be about 25% smaller than it really is. And they were off about, just 8,000 kilometers. Just a tiny little. So instead of having Japan over there, he obviously got into a different location. And for him, it was very clear he wanted to go across the ocean. And by doing that, he wanted to just take a few ships and take a crew with him, because he couldn't do it alone. Of course, you're not going to take a little raft and then just cross the ocean. But to do that, he needed money. And he didn't have that much money. He was from a low-born background. So he worked himself up. He was kind of OK. But he was able to go to every single monarch in Europe, kind of. So he went to the French king. He went to the English king. He was going to the Italian republics at the time. They were very rich and trying to just get somebody to give him money, basically, and to get him across. And it was difficult. I have another map, which is this one. It's more clear on the screen, guys. But there's a couple of lines, and these are all explorers, right? And the green line is Columbus. The purple lines are Portuguese explorers, and one of them goes right there to the Cape of Good Hope. And it was Bartholomew Diaz who just crossed that little corner right there 5 years earlier. And so the Europeans had this idea, hey, we can go around Africa and we can finally go to India through that road. We don't necessarily need to go west anymore. It's very likely that we can just go back up and then we were there. So the European monarchs were not necessarily eager to give Columbus his money. But he persevered, and he asked again, and he asked again. And he went to the Spanish king and queen. And after asking him twice, he got his money, he got his crew, and he was able to set across the Atlantic with 3 ships and a crew because he persevered. And the rest of the expeditions were all later, and because of him, there were much more explorations. And we can't imagine how big of an impact that was. Historians now know that the Americas have been discovered and been there before through different expeditions, but it was Columbus in the end that made the incredible difference of connecting the old world, what we call it, and the new world, America. And this is kind of a simplification of what Columbus had in mind. Very simple, simplification. He was either going to Japan or he was not going to Japan. That's it. He had one choice, and he was going to go to Japan. That was his ideal. And the reason I'm touching this is because we also have the same choice. We can stay in our old world in Europe, or we can go on a journey to a new world. In this case, well, I'll explain that later. Cliffhanger. Anyway, Ephesians 4. And I'm going to be reading this part, and we're going to read quite a lot of Ephesians. So I tell you this, and insist on it in the Lord, that you must no longer live as the Gentiles do, in the futility of their thinking. They are darkened in their understanding and separated from the life of God because of the ignorance that is in them due to the hardening of their hearts. Having lost all sensitivity, they have given themselves over to sensuality so as to indulge in every kind of impurity, and they are full of greed. That, however, is not the way of life you've learned when you heard about Christ and you were taught in him in accordance with the truth that is in Jesus. You were taught with regard to your former way of life to put off your old self, which is being corrupted by its deceitful desires, to be made new in the attitude of your minds, and to put on the new self, created to be like God in true righteousness and holiness. Now, there's a very clear choice that we have. That's what it says here. Put off your old life and live a new life. Now, thankfully, we all do it perfectly, right? We wake up from our beds, we pray to God, we read our Bibles, and we go to our work or study with a joyful heart. And when that one person that is at your job, that you're like, I don't necessarily always like that person, he's there, and you're grateful because it's a great opportunity to show him Jesus' love, right? And then another person comes in and he makes you angry, and you're just like, what a great opportunity to be patient with this person. And then we go back to our homes, and then we decide, okay, but I want to just worship God again, and I just want to read, and I just want to pray to God because my day has been such a joy. Yes. Yeah. Yes. That's what we would hope it to be. But I was reading, a book with somebody together, and this is what it says, and it's quite painful. Instead of desiring a time of restful fellowship with their Creator, they use the time away from work in any of a myriad of godless activities. Their God-given desire for peaceful communion and rest on the Sabbath has been corrupted by self-focus, so that rest from work is spent in shallow play before a television screen, reading frivolous books, or ultimately idleness in their retirement years. Ouch. That's what I was thinking the first time I read it. Ouch. That's exactly what I do. The situation I just described, that's not what I do. I don't wake up in the morning and I feel joyful all the time. I don't necessarily always read or pray. When that one person that you don't get along with very well is at your job, I don't think, oh, what a great opportunity now. I sometimes even wish, you have to be here? I'd rather that you not. And the problem sometimes is that we glorify this way of living. Like when I am at work, oh, thank you. Oh, that's so kind. When I'm at work, I sometimes tend to think, oh, let me just go back home so I can just play a game. I can just eat some junk food, and it's going to be great. Which, in the end, is not giving me any rest. I honestly sometimes even feel worse afterwards. And I go to bed, I'm like, what did I really do with my time just now? And I wake up, and I'm like, okay, but I still don't feel good. And then the cycle starts over again. And then the next day, I do the same thing again. And I don't necessarily break the pattern. And we tend to glorify it. Like, that's really what is going on in my mind. I am at work, and I'm like, I'm just going to do that. And when somebody asks me, hey, let's play a game together, or hey, let's meet up together, I'm like, yes, let's go. But I didn't necessarily really had some rest or time with God. I didn't read. I didn't pray. And we tend to glorify it. Like, we use it as an excuse. Like, oh, but I'm loving that person. And that might be true, but it doesn't necessarily always give a healthy and loving life for yourself. And, that's not the way that we've learned. So what is? What is that life? Now, bear with me. We're going to read quite a bit. Ephesians 4, verse 25, and we're going to read until Ephesians 5, verse 20. Therefore, each of you must put off falsehood and speak truthfully to your neighbor. For we are all members of one body. In your anger, do not sin. Do not let the sun go down where you're still angry. And do not give the devil a foothold. But anyone who has been stealing must do no longer, but must work, doing something useful with their own hands, that they may have something to share with those in need. Do not let any unwholesome talk come out of your mouth, but only what is helpful for building others up according to their needs, that it may benefit those who listen. And do not grieve the Holy Spirit of God, with whom you were sealed for the day of redemption. Get rid of all bitterness, rage and anger, brawling and slander, along with every form of malice. Be kind and compassionate to one another, forgiving each other just as in Christ God forgave you. Follow God's example, therefore, as dearly loved children, and walk in the way of love, just as Christ loved us and gave himself up for us as a fragrant offering and sacrifice to God. But among you there must not be even a hint of sexual immorality, or any kind of impurity, or of greed, because these are improper for God's holy people. Nor should there be obscenity, foolish talk, or coarse joking, which are out of place, but rather thanksgiving. For of this you can be sure, no immoral, impure, or greedy person, such a person is an idolater, has any inheritance in the kingdom of Christ and of God. I'm going to just repeat that. For of this you can be sure, no immoral, impure, or greedy person, such a person is an idolater, has any inheritance in the kingdom of Christ and of God. Let no one deceive you with empty words, for because of such things God's wrath comes on those who are disobedient. Therefore, do not be partners with them. For you were once darkness, but now you are in the light in the Lord. Live as children of light, for the fruit of the light consists in all goodness, righteousness, and truth, and find out what pleases the Lord. Have nothing to do with the fruitless deeds of darkness, but rather expose them. It is shameful even to mention what the disobedient do in secret. But everything exposed by the light becomes visible, and everything that is illuminated becomes a light. This is why it is said, "Wake up, sleeper, rise from the dead, and Christ will shine on you." Be very careful then how you live, not as unwise, but as wise, making the most of every opportunity, because the days are evil. Therefore, do not be foolish, but understand what God's will is. Do not get drunk on wine, which leads to debauchery. Instead, be filled with the Spirit, speaking to one another with psalms, hymns and songs from the Spirit. Sing and make music from your heart to the Lord, always giving thanks to God the Father for everything, in the name of our Lord Jesus Christ. It's quite a text that we just read. And it's a very, very tough one sometimes to hear. It puts it very clear into perspective. I made the same text, just the English one, because I can't speak Ukrainian. Everything that's yellow is the old life. And everything that's blue is the new life. Now, this is Ephesians, the first thing. I see some people take pictures. I'll wait. I'll go to the next one. The second one. And then we have the third one. I've put them all in the list later, so you don't have to. And I'll send you the guys the PowerPoint, so no worries. And the last one. And then this one is very clear, what the new life is about. Sorry, I just get distracted. So funny to see people, so I'm just like, click, very click. Here it is, the list. It might not even be complete. Might not even be everything that was written in the, but this is at least what I got out of it. Very, like, even a couple of seconds, this is what you get out of it. And I don't know why New Life says it should be on the right, but that's okay. That went wrong. I don't know where, but if you put it to side like this, the choice is quite easy, isn't it? Who is going to, if we have to choose, and we have to choose between all these things on the left, falsehood, sinning anger, stealing, unwholesome talk, bitterness, rage, anger, sloth, brawling, slander, malice, sexual, it's quite a list. But would you be eager to choose that one? Or would you be like, oh, the other one, righteousness, holiness, speak truthfully, resolving conflict, work to share, building others up according to their needs, kindness, compassion. I think the choice is quite easy. So I'm gonna just ask you guys something. You don't have to do anything, depending on your choice, but remain seated if you pick the old life, and just get up if you want to pick the new life. That's it. All you have to do. Remain seated if you pick the old life. Stand up if you want to pick the new life. Yeah. See? Take a look around. Everybody that's standing up wants to do that right now. I mean, the choice is very easy right now. If you put it side to side like this, I don't think anyone would be feeling like, oh, no, I'm going to choose a lie. I'm going to choose to sin in anger. I'm going to choose to steal. I don't think anyone will be choosing that. So take a look. These are the people that want to be on the same journey as you. These are the people that are, like Columbus, want to go to the new world and live a new life. You can remain, you can take a seat again. And just like we did just now, choosing a new life requires effort. You have to, now it was a simple effort, you have to stand up. Whereas remaining in your old life, you just continue what you used to do. It takes effort, and it's going to take time, it's going to take energy, it's going to take so much teamwork, because honestly, you can't do it on your own. Yep. And that's a choice. Are you willing to make that choice, and are you going to go for that? Oh, yeah. I use this because the guy, it's a meme, and it's always like a difficult choice, and in this case, it's just not. We all know that it's an easy choice. But the journey, though, is a bit less easy. So I have one example that I want to share with you guys. And that's John 8, verse 1 to 11. And here it says, "But Jesus went to the Mount of Olives. At dawn he appeared again in the temple courts where all the people gathered around him, and he sat down to teach them. The teachers of the law and the Pharisees brought in a woman caught in adultery. They made her stand before the group and said to Jesus, "Teacher, this woman was caught in the act of adultery. In the law, Moses commanded us to stone such women. Now, what do you say?" They were using this question as a trap in order to have a basis for accusing him. But Jesus bent down and started to write on the ground with his finger. When they kept on questioning him, he straightened up and said to them, "Let any of you who is without sin be the first to throw a stone at her." Again, he stooped down and wrote on the ground. At this, those who heard began to go away one at a time, the older ones first, until only Jesus was left with the woman still standing there. Jesus straightened up and asked her, "Woman, where are they? Has no one condemned you?" "No one, sir," she said. "Then neither do I condemn you," Jesus declared. "Go now and leave your life of sin." Now, this is an interesting scripture, right? For example, Leviticus 20, verse 11, and Deuteronomy 22, verse 22, both say, if a man commits adultery with a wife, both are put to death. Now, that's already interesting, because the first time, I read it, I'm like, but where's the man in this case then? Yeah. If the Pharisees come up, the man needs to be brought with him, right? But the man seems to be, I don't know where, not there at least. So something is already off. And probably Jesus sent this as well. He knew the law. He knew the scriptures very well, so Jesus knew this. Like something is off here, and we'll see what happens. Now, if we try to picture the situation, we're in a crowd. Jesus is teaching in the temple courts. He's just standing like I am right now. And all of a sudden, a group of people comes in, and they're like, "Yo, look at this guy. Look at this woman." Right there, that woman is an adulterer. Now imagine if you're that woman, and you're called out in front of everybody in the temple courts, and you're like, "You cheated, you're an adulterer, and your sin is just bad, and you need to be put to death." Now, if I was that woman, or in this case, the man that's not there, because let's be honest, he also needs, that's the law, that he needs to be put to death. So a man can also be in that position. I would be so embarrassed. I would feel helpless, I would feel hopeless, and I would just not want to, I don't know what to do. I would just surrender because there's nothing you can do, really. You're standing in this entire crowd. It's crazy. And then the one person they ask on what to do, you're like, oh, he's probably going to answer to just stone me to death. He goes down and starts writing. We don't know what he's writing. Could be complete gibberish. Could be a drawing. If it was important, he probably would have been written down. But imagine being that woman right there. You're like, give an answer. What are you doing? Imagine being the Pharisees. You're coming in, you're screaming, you're like, we need to do something, and I need justice. And Jesus doesn't do anything, really. He just goes down and writes down in the sand. Like, me as a Pharisee, I would be like, what's going on? What are you doing? Answer the question. We ask you something. Do something. So that's why they keep on questioning him. Jesus, what's going on? What are you going to do? And he just stands up. He says, let any of you who is without sin be the first to throw a stone at her. And the Pharisee is probably just standing there like, that's not the answer I expected. I was hoping he would either say, I will throw the stone, because, then he joins us and he's like just like us and he's not necessarily different. Or he would say, oh, she doesn't need to be put to death. And they were like, yeah, but that's the law, and then you're wrong, and we got him. It's just simple. But we don't. Yeah, I don't know what to answer on this. So they were just standing there like, he put the question right back to us. That woman is with sin, but if I'm without sin, I can do it. But otherwise, If I throw the stone right now, I'm going to be investigated. I'm going to be the person that's like, oh, am I without sin? Probably not. Ooh. So they admit their defeat and they walk away. Now the woman in this case, also a sinner, just like the Pharisees, is left behind. The crowd might still be there. Imagine being in the crowd, by the way. You're just standing there, Pharisees come in, Jesus standing there, you're in the crowd, and you're like, hoo, 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 let me get the popcorn. It's... They didn't have that, but it's intense. And then the woman is right there, still on the ground probably, and just like, so. And then Jesus answered her that question. Where are they? And she's probably just like, I don't know. Has no one condemned you? And she's like, no, apparently not. I'm still here. They didn't stone me to death, even though I, according to law, should be. And then this guy says, oh, well, then I don't condemn you either. Me as a woman, if I would be the Buddha just there, I would be like, what's going on? What's happening right now? And then he says, go now and leave your life of sin. Get rid of your old life and live a new life. Would you, as that woman, choose to live a new life now? Or would you be continuing the life that you just had? I think the grace that you would feel and the mercy, the empathy, the encouragement, support, the love that you feel right there, you would change. You would not be living that old life anymore. And you would be thinking, okay, I'm not going to be cheating anymore. I'm not going to be an adulterer anymore. I'm going to live a new life right now. I think most of us would choose that because it's such a life-changing experience. And the hypocrisy of the Pharisees is very clear. They sinned, but then they're like, that person sins, so we're going to put that person to death. But the moment the question is going to back to them, they realize, oh, I'm also in sin. All of us are in sin. Me, you, whoever is sitting next to you or in front of you or behind you. We're all in this same journey and we all want to live that new life, but we're still all sinners and we're still in need of Jesus. So to summarize and to lead into a small discussion that we can have together. Columbus persevered, and he in the end sailed away with 3 ships and a crew. He was able to find his goals. Well, not necessarily he didn't reach Japan, but he found new goals. And he persevered. He chose to go to a new place. And just like that, we can choose. We can be that woman, we can be Columbus, we can be the Pharisees. We can choose to live a new life. The Pharisees, by the way, also chose, in a sense, the old life. They at least they walked away. So it doesn't necessarily mean that they lived a new life. They just walked away. Now, one leads to pain, hate, and destruction, as tough as it may sound. That is the case. And the other one leads to righteousness, love, and forgiveness. Now, all of us stood up, as far as I'm aware. So all of us want to take that journey. And others have made that decision before us. I don't doubt that that woman that we just talked about has made a new decision and chooses to go for a new life. All of us, or most of us, have made that decision as well. And now we need to persevere. We need to continue. We're on that journey. We're already on that boat. And we need to persevere to reach the goal. Now, I want to ask you guys to go discuss and talk a little bit about a couple of questions I have prepared. Are we on the journey in the new life as one big boat or multiple smaller boats? Now, I'm assuming, since everybody stand up, that's already, I kind of expected the answer, that we're all on that journey on the new life, right? But are we doing that as one team, as an entire church, or is it more the case of like, okay, we have smaller groups, like smaller ships, like Columbus, you have 3 ships, but those 3 ships still have the same direction. And what is preferred? Do we want to work as one team, or do we want to have like smaller, different, like what do you want? Second question, what is your role in the journey? A ship has a captain, a ship has rowers in case it's needed, a ship has, honestly, also a cook, and people that work on the masts, and whatever roles they have on a ship. I forgot all the names right now. That's usually the captain. But there's a lot of jobs on a ship. So what is your role in this journey? As a church, we're going somewhere. What do you do? What is your role? And who are you helping or supporting? If the mast and the sail doesn't go up, are you going to stand there and like, yeah, that's a pity. Yeah, well, good luck. Or are you going to step in and help that person? Well, in the end, we all have the same goal. So if you don't step in, perhaps you won't be able to reach your goal as well. And the same question is, who's helping you? Perhaps you're that one person that's not able to get the sail up, and you're like, help me! And that person's like, good luck. Also doesn't make you reach the goal. So these are the questions, and I'll give you about 5 to 10 minutes to work in a little group, get together, discuss the question, and then we're going to go to the communion that Luca has prepared. And before I forget, this is food for self-reflective thought. It's in the PowerPoint. I'll send it to you. You can look at it at home later if you want to. Just before I forget to say that. Good luck.